family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to give the video a big thumbs up, and share the broadcast. That way others will know that we're here, and essentially more notifications can be sent out. And thus our international voice is heard around the globe. Thank you so very much, family. Now, I'm going to try to wipe this smile off my face. It's going to be kind of hard because whenever I cover international news, geopolitics, I'm always giggling a lot of times because the powers that shouldn't be continue to make a fool of themselves, and their engagement with other world leaders and having to understand the power shifts. It's humiliating for some of them, and so it's kind of fun to watch sometimes. Family, I want you to watch this very, very brief clip here as it relates to coverage about the UK foreign minister's recent trip to China. Watch this.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has welcomed his British counterpart David Lammy in Beijing. The UK's top diplomat is in China seeking to overhaul bilateral ties.
As British Foreign Secretary, David Lammy became only the second top UK diplomat to visit China in 6 years.
Hence, David Lammy, Andrew writes, is making a grovelling journey to Beijing in search of the rare earth minerals and other crucial materials needed for net zero technology.
Okay, family, I said I was going to try not to do this too much. Okay, did you hear the coverage about the groveling? Did you hear the groveling comments there, family, about how the UK foreign minister, is accused of groveling, having to humble himself to go talk to his Chinese counterpart? Just a little bit of information. Let me read to you briefly from this AP report headline stating UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, always a blackface, right, to visit China in an attempt to reset frosty relations. This took place just a few weeks ago, not too long ago. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy is making his first trip to China in office this week in an attempt to reset the UK's ties with Beijing and seek, quote, pragmatic engagement despite human rights and other concerns. Relations between Britain and China have turned increasingly frosty, this headline says, in recent years over a series of spying and cyber espionage allegations. Beijing's crackdown, it says, on civil liberties in Hong Kong, a former British colony, and China's support for Russia in the Ukraine war. He goes on to say, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's spokesperson David Parr has said Britain wants to engage China, but would challenge Beijing over issues including jailing Jimmy Lai, the Hong Kong activist and publisher of now shuttered Apple Daily newspaper. When I read through this piece, of course, it's trying to make China look like the complete bad guy. Well, okay, fine. But can you please talk about the real reason you're going over there? If they're so bad, why is it that this is the first trip that a head leader in the UK has made a trip there in about 6 years? Yes. Listen to what it says. Just a little bit of background here that I want to give you from Innovation Diary. I found this little excerpt interesting here, which says that by strengthening ties with China, the UK is moving away from the US dominated Western model, which has historically relied on military power, economic coercion, and the US dollar's dominance in global trade. Instead, the UK is aligning itself with a rising superpower that prioritizes mutual economic growth, technological advancement, and respect for sovereignty. It also mentions here that for decades, the U.S. has used its control, y'all listen, over global financial systems like SWIFT to impose sanctions and exert political pressure on nations that oppose its interests. This has created a financial system where countries are vulnerable to U.S. economic policies, which can shift dramatically depending on the administration in power. China offers an alternative approach, one that emphasizes stability, long-term economic planning, and partnerships based on mutual respect. Now, family, some are, I believe, correctly coming to the conclusion that the UK is kind of sorry for the sanctions that's been imposed on China from the West. Talk black to me, somebody. And they're understanding that they're suffering not only because of where they were positioned because of the COVID stuff, their position that they're in based on their now new Brexit situation and disposition. Europe is suffering, baby. Mainstream media is not talking about it, but these European countries, these white countries, are suffering. And they saying, sorry, China, Is that what they saying? I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it below, beloved. But this is very interesting and I think very appropriate, family. Everybody can thrive if there's mutual respect. The only problem is when you want to use the end of a barrel of a gun and you want to exploit resources and finances, of course, you're going to always run into problems. That's just straight up greed, which means that there's a diabolical force that's driving you. Diabolical forces that I'm very good at exposing, and I'm going to do free in my webinar this Sunday, November 24th. I said free webinar this Sunday that I make available to members of the world. Yes, join me this Sunday, November 24th, where I'm going to be breaking down the occult forces that were at play in the presidential campaign on both sides. And I'm going to give you the proper interpretation of that dry bones army prophecy that's rising up at this time. It's going to be powerful. This is the kind of stuff that we got to talk about offline. Be sure to go to my website where you can register for free, VickiPlanet.com. That's VickiPlanet.com. That's VICKI Planet.com. Of course, share the broadcast and comment below. I can't wait to see you again.